first question is from XZenith42, and I really like this question. He said, Brian says he felt like he had money around age 41 or 42, around there. Can you describe what changed? The number, the income, your money guy multiplier, like what all went into that feeling? And then he also said, what changes did you make to go from frugal saver Brian to spender Brian, or maybe more financially free Brian?
Yeah, I think it's good to give some context here, because that's spot on, Zenith, and the fact that I say this to kind of give the experience share that I think it's okay in your 20s, you're going to feel broke. But the good news about being in your 20s, because you have time, but you don't have a lot of resources typically, is that you can also put up with anything. It's so funny is that pre-show, Katie was showing me kind of, vacation, anniversary trips, and I was looking at this thing, and it was very cute, and I was like, this is the perfect vacation for Katie, because they're early in their marriage, they don't have kids yet, so they can go do these type of things. And that's the beauty of your 20s, is that you're discovering new things. Daniel just got back from New Mexico, so you're seeing things for the first time, you're experiencing things for the first time, so your eyes are open. So it doesn't take a lot to create big excitement and big changes. That's okay, because you're in your 20s, you're adaptable, but you don't have a lot of money. And then you fast forward and you get into your 30s, and that's when you start having a growing family. You have the first house come on board, because we know that average age is around 33, 34. And you're just going to feel like the whole world is working against you. And the fact that there's just so many things pulling at your pocketbook, at your wallet, that you're squeezed.
And that's messy middle, if you will.
That's exactly why we call it the
You're
messy
speaking
middle.
my language
Yeah,
there.
because especially with the crying babies, the job needs more from you. You just feel like you are just being pulled in all kind of different places. That I feel like a lot of people will get fatigued. They will they'll want to give up. They'll see their friends and their peers that seem like they've got it all figured out, but they're doing it all at $200 or $300 at a time with monthly payments and using debt as the bridge to nowhere. So it was true that by the time I reached 40, in my early 40s, I felt like the rays of sunshine broke through. And I think a lot of this is also because I was hard on myself in my 20s and 30s, because I remember I have shared that I talked to my wife in my 20s and I said, look, we're going to prioritize saving and investing a chunk of our income now while we don't have a lot of commitments. And then we even prioritize this in our 30s in the messy middle, because we knew it was going to be tough. But if we did this is the promise I made to her, is if we do this, by the time we reach our 40s, we're going to be able to take our foot off the accelerator. And I had some personal goals too. I wanted to make $100,000 by the time I was 30 of income, and then I wanted to have 7 figures of liquid net worth by the time I was 40. Both of those goals I actually missed by exactly 1 year, because I started my company when I was late. I think I was early 27, 28, somewhere in that range. I'm getting so old that years run together. But it was went out on my own in 2002, and by the time I was 31, I think is when I crossed 6 figures, and then I didn't cross 7 figures liquid until I was 41. Because now I had net worth over the 7 figures, but liquid is what I was thinking about when I talk about cash, when I talk about your investments, your after-tax investments and other things like that. And it was one of those things where I'd reached that critical mass, or what I like to call the bowling point of your wealth building is it happened in my 40s. And I think it's important to share that, because a lot of people in society are telling you, look your best in your 20s and 30s. Don't worry about building up those assets to invest and so forth. And that's all the bowling point of the critical mass of bowling does not occur for water until 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. But up until you reach that temperature, it looks like nothing's happening. So I think a lot of people in their 20s and 30s can give up too early. And I just want to give you, Zenith, the inspiration to say, stick with it, stay the point, reach that bowling point with your assets so you actually get to see the fruit of all your hard work. And there's a reason that when like Ramsey Solutions did their biggest study on millionaires, it took exactly 27 years for the typical millionaire to cross into, and that's in your 40s. I mean, that's where the millionaires actually start popping up all over the place. And yes, there's some exceptions to the rules in their 20s and 30s. We work with a number of you. But for most people, it's going to happen in your 40s. Stick with it. It gets really good. Then you'll start spending more on vacations than you made in your first year out of college on your income. That's the payoff point. Life can be good. Just stay the course. And then don't think I'm telling you to be a miser. You can bedazzle your basic life while you're younger as well and still do vacations and trips. Just don't be trying to make it Instagram perfect like a lot of people in your peer group are going to be doing.
So is a big part of it, in my mind, just thinking through it, like seeing that your money invested is growing to a significant enough point that like you feel okay, like it's making enough money.
Yeah, well, there's two things that are crossing. You're starting to reach some of your peak earning years. The peak earning years happen in your late 40s. Yeah. So even in your early 40s, you're seeing the payoff in your career. So your income's reached a point, plus your assets have reached a point. And if you've done automated wealth building where you're automatically on a monthly basis, this month goes into retirement savings, this month goes into the kids' college, this month goes to pay off the mortgage. If everything's automated, it really is like you've reached that point to where everything lines up. Whereas it felt like in the 20s and 30s, it was all a struggle. Mm-hmm. I'm having to figure out every dollar and be very disciplined with it to make sure that I'm prioritizing these assets. Whereas in the 40s, your income and everything lines up in a good way. The kids get a little bit older now that, look, they're not at college yet. That's a whole nother expense level that kicks in. But you are at this point where, going on family vacation seems a heck of a lot easier versus when they're babies.
That's true.